Make the most of your Walt Disney World vacation.
The top 6 shortcuts at Walt Disney World. Hi, I'm Herb Leibacher, and welcome to episode number 98 of the World of Walt podcast. Make the most of your Walt Disney World vacation for the week of November 13th, 2016. This is the podcast for Walt Disney World fans, whether you're planning your next trip or just enjoy reliving a little bit of Disney magic. Today, the podcast is sponsored by Ear to Their Travel. If you're planning a trip to any Disney destination, give Phil at Ear to Their Travel a call. Phil is a former Disney cast member, so he really knows how Disney works. He can help you plan all the details of your next vacation at no extra cost to you, while making sure you get the best deal on your trip. You can reach Phil at eartotheirtravel.com. While I always encourage folks, including myself, to stop and soak in the details around Disney World, I know that sometimes I enjoy scooting around the log jams that happen when a Disney park gets crowded. If sometimes you just want to get from point A to point B as quickly and efficiently as possible, you will enjoy today's podcast, where we cover the top 6 shortcuts at Disney World. To help me explore this topic, I'd like to welcome a Run Disney enthusiast who knows how to make his way around the parks, Russ Reeves. Russ, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, Herb. It's always fun to go over our list together. I always learn something from you and have fun sharing my little observations as well. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
I'm glad to have you back. I always learn some things from you as well. So fun topic for today. But before we get into it, warm-up question is, what's your favorite float in, rest in peace, the Main Street Electrical Parade?
Oh, just a little tear came to my eye because I know that by the time this episode airs, it will be gone to its new home in California, and I will miss it. This parade has been a part of my life, my entire life, really. So, for pretty much all my life, my favorite float has been the Elliott float from Pete's Dragon.
Oh, interesting.
When I was a kid, that was one of my favorite movies. I just loved it, and I always loved the fact that you could see Elliott coming down the street all lit up, and I think for a good long while it was the only place you could see Elliott in the parks, and of course now it's another tear comes to my eye as I think about a generation of people who will grow up knowing of a different Elliott than the one that we had in the classic film.
Yes.
So that's my favorite one.
Wow, good choice. It's definitely an impressive float, being so tall and
huge.
Yeah, that's a good one. So there are a lot from which to choose. So I was always impressed by the opening float that says Disney's Main Street Electrical Parade, sort of scrolled out on the drum. Yeah, that's classic. And the final float, the tribute to America, I think is huge and impressive. But if I had to pick just one unit, it would probably be the turtle, the little turtles that come and spin around. I always just loved that. It's one of those things you could say is almost a throwaway, but it almost seems like it's a little more, I don't know, intimate or connecting with a crowd, that they can sort of come up close and they spin around, which is fun. Yeah. They make sort of funny noises and then they scurry off again. So that's one of my favorite things is the turtle, and I think there's a snail too, but I'd probably pick the turtle as the winner.
Yeah, and each of those, there's the unforgettable music that plays throughout the whole thing, but then each little portion of the parade has its own little tune that it plays or sounds that it makes, and I just think that turtle makes the coolest sounds as he comes closer to you. It's kind of these little electronic little blips and beeps as he's coming over towards you, and you think he's going to run over you, and then he spins around and goes back the other direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to miss that so much. I'm going to miss it so much.
Me too.
Little known fact for anyone out there who cares, so which would be precisely 0 people. The wallpaper on my laptop that I'm looking at right now is of the big drum float that says Disney's Electrical Parade right at the beginning.
Oh.
Love this parade.
Yeah, that's a winner. I bet that's a nice photograph.
It is. It's not one that I took. I borrowed it from someone online.
Yeah. It's actually
I will give it back to them.
Yeah, I'm sure. They probably will wait for you to give them back. Is no problem. It's pretty hard to get good photographs of the Main Street Electrical Parade because things are moving and it's dark, and it's hard to get good photographs.
I have never taken a good photograph of it myself, so I always love seeing other people's really good pictures of it.
Yeah. I've always wondered if for Disney themselves to get these super crisp photos, they I guess have the luxury of being able to stage the whole thing at 3:00 in the morning and, stop and park it here for 2 hours while the guys get their exposures right and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they're dealing with a lot better camera equipment than we are.
Yes. Yep.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, we miss you, Main Street Electrical Parade. Maybe we'll get to see you on the West Coast sometime, or maybe you'll even come back. You've left us before and come back before, so who knows? 15 years from now, maybe we'll see you again.
Yes, we can hope so.
Yep. All right, for today, though, an efficiency topic, the top 6 shortcuts at Walt Disney World, and number 1, Russ, is for you.
Well, that's a good topic after our warm-up question, because during parades is when you really need to find those shortcuts, because there are a lot of the major arteries that you can't navigate through. So it really is helpful to know where the shortcuts are. We've talked about this before, both in articles and in podcasts, about knowing shortcuts for beating the heat and beating the crowds. And so it really pays to study that map and see where all those paths go. I'm going to go to Disney Springs for my first one and talk about a new one, and that's the pedestrian bridge there in the Marketplace area. It links the area around Rainforest Cafe over to the Lego store area. That is not only a beautiful bridge and really well themed to the new Disney Springs motif, but it was so needed because the congestion there around the World of Disney store and around the Lego store was so bad that it was just really stressful to walk through on a crowded day. But this new pedestrian bridge opens up, and it's a really helpful thing for navigating through Disney Springs, especially on that end.
Yeah, I completely agree, and this is something that really was sorely needed. I would say especially during the height of the construction, sometimes it would almost feel like a gridlock there, and it was almost disturbing how many people would get stuck in that spot.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a way to bypass the World of Disney store. Not that I think you should. It's a great store. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Right. But it's also beautifully designed, like you say. It gives you a nice view back towards the Disney store. Oftentimes they'll have a fountain that will be lit up at night, sort of in that middle section now. So it's a good addition. It's a beautifully done from an architectural and design perspective, but it's also a nice way if you're at the Lego store and you want to avoid some of that traffic. You're heading over to the Days of Christmas or Wolfgang Puck's or Pin Traders. It's a good way to make a beeline to those other areas.
Yes, yeah. I've been so pleased with it since they've opened that up.
Yeah, it's a nice addition. Okay, number 1, the Marketplace Bridge. Number 2 is over to me, and I'm going to go to the Magic Kingdom, and a spot that I think is often overlooked. You almost have to know that it's there in order to take advantage of it. And this is the walking path that goes from Space Mountain to the Fantasyland Railroad Station. So it would be very easy to miss it, but it's a nice way to cut from Tomorrowland over to the railroad station, or even just the Storybook Circus area. It's also a quiet spot, so there aren't a lot of places in the Magic Kingdom which are off the beaten path, so to speak, and not too crowded. But this one usually is off the beaten path. It usually is not crowded. So it's a good way to get from point A to point B. It's also a nice way to get on a little extra breathing room, or if you're just interested in taking a stroll and not being surrounded by people and getting to see a little more grass in the Magic Kingdom, this is a nice place to do it.
Yeah, it's really, I would say tranquil almost back there.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like maybe a little overstimulated from being around crowds all day, it's well shaded, and it's usually pretty quiet back there. It is a couple of spots, I think, on that little path are smoking sections, so you can run into some crowds there, and if smoke bothers you, that might be a problem for you. But otherwise, it's a really enjoyable stroll back through there.
Yeah, a good point.
And I think it probably does qualify as a shortcut, because by the time you navigate from back there where that train station is over to Tomorrowland, and you're going through crowds and and all that to get around to where Space Mountain is, I think you definitely would save time going through there.
Yeah, I agree. And good call out about the smoking section. So for those folks who are looking for one or looking to avoid one, keep that in mind if you're considering this walking path.
I think during Halloween party, that's also a candy trail, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. I was thinking about that too. So that's about the only time that I think a lot of attention gets drawn to that spot is during the not-so-scary Halloween parties, because I do believe that it's a candy distribution spot.
Yeah. So, but that's a great place. I like to go back there sometimes just to kind of get away from the crowd for a little while.
Yeah. Good. That was number 2. Number 3, Russ, back to you.
Well, if you're trying to get from the area around Splash Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad over to Liberty Square, maybe going to Haunted Mansion, or even just going to go through there to Fantasyland, sometimes the streets of Frontierland can get kind of congested, and like we just said earlier, if there's a parade going on, you can't even get out on that street. So there is a boardwalk that runs along the rivers of America there from approximately Splash Mountain, where you turn down the hill to go to the queue for Splash Mountain. If you turn the opposite direction toward the rivers of America, you can get on this boardwalk, and there's rarely ever a crowd on that boardwalk. So that's almost always my preferred way to go from that end of Frontierland over to Liberty Square or Fantasyland, as long as I'm not planning on stopping to get something to eat or stopping to shop or go see the Country Bears. I will just take that boardwalk straight across there, beat the crowd, and it's a really peaceful walk. You're right alongside the river, and a very enjoyable stroll.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought this one up. I think this is a hidden gem, really, because it's easy to miss because it's sort of tucked behind some food carts and some foliage. But it is a beautiful walk because, like you say, you're right on the river, so you get to enjoy the water. So yeah, it's one that I would definitely suggest that people seek out. And like you say, especially if there's a parade going through Frontierland or the streets are crowded. But even if not, it's just a different view. You get to see some different things, and it's usually not crowded and usually peaceful.
Yeah. So it's my pathway of choice as I go through there.
It's a good one. All right, that was number 3. Number 4 is back over to me. I'm going to head to Epcot, and a path that shoots from Test Track to more or less to Mexico. So most folks, when they walk through Epcot, head straight towards Spaceship Earth. Please don't call it a golf ball. And they continue to go forward until they get to the water and then take a left or a right. But if you are off to the side, there are paths that go from Test Track to Mexico. And there's also a path that goes from Imagination over towards Canada, not quite that far. And so it can be a nice way, depending on where you are in the park, to get back to Mexico or Canada. But it's also often less crowded and just kind of a nice way to get a different view as you tour around Epcot.
It is. You get some great views over there. That used to be where the Odyssey restaurant was. There's a less frequently used public restroom there at the Odyssey restaurant building, or the former Odyssey restaurant building. That's where the first aid facilities are. And it's a great path. It's one that a lot of people don't think to use. It's definitely a time saver, and it's also just very enjoyable.
Yeah, agree. That was number 4. Number 5, Russ, back to you.
Well, not far away from the last one I shared, there in the Frontierland, Liberty Square area, there's a couple of shortcuts that I'm going to name together here because they're kind of twins, and they connect from Frontierland to Adventureland or vice versa, depending on which side you're on. So the first one would be right outside the entrance to the Country Bear Jamboree. You can cut through that little alley there and come out right in front of Aloha Isle and the Tiki Room. So if you're in Frontierland and have a hankering for a Dole Whip, as I often do, you can just cut right through there. You don't have to go all the way up and around the bend there. So that's a nice shortcut. And the other one goes between the Diamond Horseshoe and a store called Island Supply, which is now better known as the Sunglass Hut, directly across from Swiss Family Treehouse. That's a nice little cut through also. Definitely a time saver if you're trying to get from Adventureland to Frontierland, or maybe you've got a dining reservation at Skipper Canteen that you're trying to get to, or even back to the hub and Main Street from Frontierland. It's a good time saver. In that cut through there, it's all covered, and there are some large restrooms going through there, so that's a good place to cut through if you need to find a restroom, and a good time saver too.
Yeah, these are both excellent examples, and they're kind of easy to miss, I think, because they're tucked back in either underneath a building or between some buildings. So I think a lot of folks may not notice that you do have a way that you can cut through Frontierland to Adventureland and vice versa, and not just in one spot, but two. And that's kind of unique given the hub and spoke layout of the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I've often wondered what prompted those alleys to be opened up like that. You know, I because it is unusual. I don't know of anywhere else in Magic Kingdom where you have multiple places that you can just cut directly through from one land to the other like that. But I'm glad they're there. I usually make use of one or both of them on every trip, and they're a great time saver.
Yep, I agree. That's a good one. All right, that was number 5. Number 6, back to me, and I'm going to stay in the Magic Kingdom. And actually, I'm going to talk about 2 different ways you can bypass Main Street USA. You may not want to bypass Main Street USA. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Why would anyone want to do that?
I would say post-fireworks or post-parade when people are elbow to elbow. So one way you can bypass the street itself is by cutting through the Emporium. And these days, the Emporium is one huge shop that connects all the way from Town Square to Casey's, and you can stay inside. You have to sort of dodge by the merchandise displays, and Main Street's Emporium does get busy as well. But if Main Street itself is packed because of some event going on there, or it's just really hot and sunny outside, you'd rather be inside, you can travel all the way down Main Street USA in air-conditioned comfort by going through the now super stretched Emporium. On the opposite side of the street, the shops are not all completely connected, but they're largely connected. But there's also a spot behind those shops which opens up only during certain times. So there is it used to be backstage, but they've really themed it recently, a path that cuts through the restrooms next to the Tomorrowland Noodle Station and goes all the way to Town Square and Tony's. So it's behind the shops that are on Main Street USA opposite the Emporium. And when that first opened up, I think they maybe rushed it a bit, and it was for security or safety reasons. And you kind of see the back of buildings, and it just didn't look very Disney-like. And over time, they've added a little bit of landscaping, and they've spruced up the back sides of the building. So it's a pretty pleasant walk. And so if you're looking at a way to exit more quickly after Wishes ends and you're in the hub, head over towards those restrooms near Tomorrowland, and you can bypass Main Street USA, and usually you can walk through there very quickly. It's typically not a very crowded spot.
this is one that I have not yet experienced because they have not been open in times that I have been there. Like you said, they're only, I think, opening them during times of like peak capacity. And so, there's part of me that says I really want to see that, and then there's another part of me that says I really don't want to be there on a day when that is necessary.
Yeah.
So, but I'm certainly a fan, and I want to see as much as I can see, especially in an area that I never got to see before. So I would love to see it, but I'm really thankful that I haven't been there at a time when it's had to be open.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're glad if it's feeling just a little bit too claustrophobic, because there is something about being in the hustle and bustle of Main Street. Even if your day is over and you're making your way out of the park, but if you've just sort of been bumped into one too many people and you'd rather just make a beeline out, if it's open, it's a nice way to get past Main Street and not have to deal with the crowd.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, it's not a shortcut, but maybe a strategy. The best way to avoid all that sort of cattle herding on Main Street at the end of the night is just to be patient, wait around. Don't be in a hurry to be the first one out at the park and the first one on your bus back to your resort or whatever. Just wait around. It's going to thin out, and you're going to have Main Street almost all to yourself. And one of the most enjoyable experiences I have anytime I'm in Magic Kingdom is what they call the Kiss Goodnight. It's that announcement of the end of the Disney day. And, they play When You Wish Upon a Star, and there's this beautifully worded announcement. I'm not ashamed to tell you, it brings a tear to my eye every time. So I'm always sort of lingering back in the park until things thin out down Main Street, and then I just take my time and enjoy my exit.
That is a great tip, because even if you're making it out of the park, the crowd is going with you. So you're going to be on a crowd waiting for the monorail or the ferry boat or your bus. So why not just hang back a little bit? You'll probably get out, almost in the same amount of time, but you'll get to explore Main Street with a little more space. And it's crazy to say, but I have not yet seen the Kiss Goodnight. Is on my list.
Oh, well, I don't want to overhype it. I mean, it's just a recorded announcement, but the way that it's done, and just, you've had this great day of vacation in the Magic Kingdom, and, and there's part of you that wants to stay all night, and, you'd never want to leave, and, just to sort of finish it off with that it just, to me, it's like the perfect way to end your day. And if you're wondering how long should you wait around to make your way down Main Street there after the crowd leaves. So this is my strategy. I'm always just lingering around in Fantasyland until cast member comes and tells me it's time for you to go home now. and then that's when I know that okay, my time here is done. And they're very nice about it. We usually linger around back there by Gaston's Tavern. When we come out, we might try to hang a left, and there'll be a line of cast members there saying, nope, you can't come this way. You have to go back that way. And they're, trying to kind of usher us toward the castle. And by the time they do that, that crowd is gone. And you can really enjoy walking down Main Street there and the beauty of those lights and the music. And then you hear the Kiss Goodnight as you get near the train station. It's the perfect way to end the day, I think. I wish I could end every day like that.
That would be nice, huh? Yeah, great tip, and good points about the Kiss Goodnight. So now I'm just more determined I need to go there and check that out. All right, good list today, Russ. The top 6 shortcuts at Walt Disney World. Number 1, the Disney Springs Marketplace Bridge. Number 2, the walking path from Space Mountain to Fantasyland. Number 3, the Frontierland Boardwalk. Number 4, the walking path from Test Track to Mexico. Number 5, the pass-throughs from Adventureland to Frontierland. And number 6, the 2 Main Street USA bypasses, either through the Emporium or through the back side of the buildings on the opposite side of the street. So this is a fun list for people who are lazy or efficient. I prefer efficient, so I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a helpful list. If you're listening to this and planning your trip, these are things that you definitely want to make a note of, because they're going to save you a lot of time and frustration getting from one place to another.
Agree. And it's nice to have the option. So you may want to check out
Right.
Main Street, but if you've just had it and you want to get out of there, now you know a way you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Does that have a name? When they first built that little exit behind the buildings there, I was hearing someone call them the exit plazas. Is that what it's being called there?
That's a good question. I don't know. That certainly sounds nice. It sounds better than alleyway, but yeah, I don't know. Good question.
Okay. Well, maybe one day I'll be there when it's in use, and I'll be very interested in seeing it, but I'm not very interested in being there on a day that's that crowded.
Good point. That's the opposite edge of the double-edged sword right there.
Yeah.
Okay, Russ, as always, it was fun. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Today we head out to the Epcot Future World Music Loop, and we have made it through the list of the top 6 shortcuts at Walt Disney World, but our conversation isn't over. I'd like to hear what you think about our list. Do you have an idea, something you'd like to add? You can do that by visiting the show notes page at worldofwalt.com/98, a page that works great on desktops, tablets, and smartphones. Leave your comments in the comments section, and check out what other people think as well. I'd like to invite you to follow me on social media, facebook.com/worldofwalt and pinterest.com/worldofwalt. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I would appreciate it if you would spread the word. Tell your family and your friends about it. To wrap up for today, I would like to give you a heartfelt thank you for spending some of your time with me. I'd also like to thank everyone who visits the worldofwalt.com site, where you can read interesting Disney articles and chat with other folks who enjoy Disney in the forums and in the comments sections. By listening here and by visiting the site, you allow me to share the fun of Disney with you, and that is extremely cool. Thank you so much for being a part of it. So until next time, my friend, may God bless you.
So there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, just a dream